Let's talk about night guards.
I keep jumping off a 10-story building and I wonder why my knee hurts. That was my TMJ. I had to find the solution. Why am I clenching my teeth?
Dr. Trivedi and I were told to meet each other, I think about 15 years ago. I regret that I didn't follow up back then.
And I tell patients, and on my TikTok, you have to demand more from your practitioner. If they give you a night guard, why do I need this night guard?
Let's talk about night guards. Let's just talk about night guards, because everybody and their sister has just spent $600 or more on a night guard. I don't think I ever made a night guard in my entire career.
I made a lot of them, and I got into them and went, because I have very bad TMJ, TMD, temporomandibular disorder. TMJ, for everyone must know, is just a location of a point. TMJ is my joint. TMJD is the disorder of the joint. I have TMJD and I've had it for over 25 years. I was taught that I need a night guard. I was taught that I just have to stabilize my joint so that way the capsule wouldn't get so much force and stay inflamed. And I was like, yeah, okay, that's what I'll wear, a night guard, and that's what I'll do. And then one day I came across this fella, dentist, Dr. Liao, Felix Liao. He's like, yeah, but why are you clenching your teeth in the first place?
Exactly.
And it like blew my mind. It's like such a simple question that I never asked myself. And I never asked myself when I'm giving millions of night guards to all these people.
I never.
It's just like, well, yeah, the house is on fire. Here, wear this fireproof jacket.
Yes, exactly.
And literally, this is the mindset of every dentist, And then
and some of these people, they're told by the dentist, I can see you're grinding your teeth because they see
symptoms of clenching and grinding.
It's the symptom. Why are they seeing these symptoms? I mean, tooth enamel is harder than steel.
It's incredibly strong.
Hardness of 5, I believe. So why is it wearing away like that? It's because of acidity. Acidity will soften it. What are they using? I mean, if they're opposed to fluoride, they're using, for example, just going to use an example, Tom's of Maine, #1 selling natural mouth rinse, has a pH of 3. So if you rinse with that, right? Yeah.
I'm so confused.
Yes. If you rinse with that right before, it's the top selling natural.
And its pH is 3?
pH is 3 or 3.5.
Well, whatever. That's insane. That's like closer to battery acid.
Well, Biotine was the same. Their Biotine is for dry mouth. I think they may have changed it recently, but for years it had a pH of like 4.5.
My.
You use that right before you go to bed and you grind your teeth, which we all do, you're going to have softened enamel.
It's going to obliterate.
I mean, that is, and I'm here to push the idea that I believe in, which is my complete mouth care system, because it results in extremely strong enamel, dense enamel, which I grind my teeth all the time. They don't wear away because the teeth are strong. Now, let's go back, though, to that whole thing of bruxism. And when it's not because you're using say somebody's using good night care with good fluoride mouth rinse or whatever before they go to sleep at night, and they are grinding their teeth and they're actually fracturing them, or
you'll get a lot of you'll get vertical fracture lines, and then once the pressure's too high for the teeth, then you'll notice these people have tori, exostoses. You see that happening now. The bone is trying to support the force.
And to describe that's the lumps in your bone are growing in various directions.
Yeah, bone lumps that are growing on your tongue side or on this side, but
it's all about these forces that you are putting on your teeth as you're sleeping at night. So what should they do? Should they have a night guard or do what?
I mean, the easiest thing, which again, I would tell every dentist, why are they clenching their teeth? You just have to ask a simple question. Instead of, and this is again where I'm going to get back to, the entire model needs to take not just prevention, but to root cause solutions. Root cause long-term solutions, not long-term band-aids. And literally our entire education system from medical through dental is a long-term band-aid. And this needs to change. Because first, our society has to demand, I don't want a band-aid anymore. I want a solution. And if you go to your practitioner, whether a medical doctor, a dentist, you demand that, they will eventually have to acquiesce and go, you know what, we have a demand, we have to create a supply.
What would you do for somebody who comes in and says, what do I do with this?
Well, I mean, first, if you want root cause solution, I go through what are the root causes of clenching. We start with, and this is recent studies have proven that you have upper airway restriction syndrome, or just say upper airway restriction. It's like 75% of people in the US have airway restriction from the tip of their nose through their sinus system. And anytime there's a restriction, the body, you will clench. You'll clench down. It just, just happens.
That opens up the muscle behind at the back of your nasopharynx, right? If you clench down, doesn't that change the shape there?
Well, what's happening there, and this is interesting, someone won the Nobel Prize for the discovery of something called nitric oxide.
Oh, sure.
And how it's all played into this thing. So what happens is, long story short, you have inflammation in your upper airway restriction, you're being restricted by inflammation. And we'll get into why you're having that, but you have a restriction. So you have inflammation, then the cells that produce nitric oxide cannot produce it. Nitric oxide is a vasodilator. It regulates your heart system. And then if your nitric oxide goes down, it's inversely proportional to cortisol. What is cortisol? The stress hormone of the body. Now you've been releasing stress hormone throughout the body. You're stressed, you clench. When I learned that, I was like, that makes absolute sense. These aren't people who just, life is, and again, I'm not blaming society, but we've been force-fed to believe it's stress, accept it, move on with your life. And I find that insulting.
Yeah. And
you're insulting my intelligence to believe that I have to accept what's happening and I don't get an answer or a solution. It's stress. And I would talk to these patients, well, it's just stress. That is, you are now a victim. And you played into the whole sickness of our medical dental system.
Well, and I think
it's sad.
The more I look into this, the more I talk with patients now, because, I've been doing this for years, trying to find out what's underneath, what's the next layer of the onion that we have to figure out why this is. I'm totally convinced that chronic sinus problems could be called periodontitis of the sinus. The bacteria, inflammation,
it's connected.
It's totally connected. And I think that we may end up by getting more chronic sinus infections. And again, this is just a hypothesis of mine, because when people get allergies, the first thing they run for now is a nasal spray of some sort or a quick allergy fix that shrinks the tissues, that probably allow the allergens to go in deeper. Doesn't flush them out. It makes the allergens go in deeper.
It does a lot of things.
That probably creates this more chronic inflammatory response in our nasal passages, because we are giving children Claritin and these different medications at a young age. Instead of what the old days would be to either flush it out with salt water or xylitol, or, they make a xylitol nasal spray that doesn't dry up your nose like today's allergy medications. It actually makes your nose run, because the intent is to get those allergens out, get them away. And I just am convinced that this whole nasopharynx health, I don't know which comes first. I'm not sure which is
Well, I would say, the hierarchy of needs of the body is airway, breathing, circulation. So I would say, and I've told this to my patients, that oral hygiene, nasal hygiene, I see no difference. They're connected. So if you have a really great biome here, it's going to spread up here. If you have a bad biome over here, it's going to spread up there.
And vice versa.
Exactly. And so I
have a friend who had some kind of extraction implant problem where they actually perforated into the sinus. So then they got sinus issues.
From the mouth,
the whole thing has just become a circle. It's if you don't understand what's going on in your mouth health and your sinus health and this whole sleeping, breathing, nitric oxide.
The sleeping, breathing thing has been one of the greatest things I'm so glad I got into it. And you got to realize I got into this because I was diagnosed with mild to moderate sleep apnea. That's why I was clenching. I was clenching.
So have you solved it?
So now I know what to do about it. I got into the realm of TMJ, and I love TMJ and everything TMJ because I have TMJD, and I did all the fancy night guards and the fancy TMJ splints, and look at all these great things I'm doing, but then I'm still clenching my teeth and I'm still having active pain. I'm like, sometimes, going to work when your dentist is in pain, it's not easy. It's not easy being it's difficult. on my body structure to handle that level of pain. And so,
so what's the cause? Did you damage the TMJ originally then, do you think?
Through the clenching, bruxism and clenching
So
over
it's like
time,
all...
it's bone on bone contact. It's going to wear down. The muscles can only withstand so much eccentric forces, right? My knee is designed to walk. I keep jumping off a 10-story building and I wonder why my knee hurts.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
So that was my TMJ. And I had to find the solution. The solution, why am I clenching my teeth? So then I found out about upper airway restriction syndrome. So I went down that. I have a 3D imager in my office, got a 3D image, and they're like, yeah, I got restrictions all through my nasal passages. Okay, well, let me fix that. And then...
So how do you fix that? Did you expand your arches or?
So yeah, so the overall system that I learned for what's called epigenetic maxillary expansion. So basically what I found out was if your maxilla, this is the middle third of your face, which basically makes your sinus cavity, your nasal cavity, and it's also the floor of your sinus, but it's also the ceiling of your mouth. So it's a very important bone. What I found out was if this thing is slightly restricted, meaning it didn't grow in its full dimension on the lateral aspects, the side to side, or the aspects in the front and back, that means it'll be squished. If it's squished, it's going to create narrow inflow, outflow tracts of your nasal system.
Right.
So that way it's going to get gunked up easier. Now I have more gunkiness going on. So more gunky, less nitric oxide, more cortisol clenching.
Right. Okay.
Not to mention I'm going to have sleep-related breathing problems and other issues, which is going to also increase my cortisol. So I've been living a life of cortisol explosion, excess for all these times. And the entire time I just thought, it's stress. Oh, you're a dentist. It's stress.
One of the interesting things from just as a mom, I mean, I had 5 kids, and it wasn't in England when I grew up, they thought that bottle feeding was better than
we're going to jump on that
and well, because the nipples of these bottles they were made almost like a straw, so babies never sucked. So this palate, when a baby is born, of course, as you know, but for people watching, there's a big groove down the middle of the baby's, it's at the top of the vault of your mouth, and as the baby sucks, it literally pulls the bones down. And if you continue breastfeeding into the 2nd year of life or thereabouts, you'll do a really good job of helping the baby's bones, instead of being arched up and high, to actually be sucked, especially if the baby has to really suck hard. And today it's very interesting. I watched my kids nursing, and when they went over to bottle feeding, they now make nipples that make it hard for babies
they've slowed it down.
So they've got the message here that a baby needs to create that vacuum, because it's so much better for letting the vault of the palate, this roof of your mouth, be pulled down and open up more nasal passages. Now, in England, when I was a kid, I think everybody had really high, I mean, look at, as a dentist.
Well, the malocclusion is astronomical. You guys were a mess over there.
Malocclusion, yes. Well, for a lot of reasons, but that was one of them. That who can explain to a Brit that part of their nasal breathing, malocclusion, teeth too far forward in the top jaw, was all because their mom wasn't given a choice of a better nipple for the baby bottle.
Or they were told breastfeeding and bottle feeding there's no difference.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the same thing. It's a sequence of destruction that begins with something so remote that nobody goes back to say, I wonder if it was because she was bottle fed. I mean, it wasn't until I was in practice going, everybody has these giant cathedral ceiling roofs of their mouths.
Yeah, narrow arch form, meaning narrow mouth, narrow maxilla. So I asked my mom, I go, hey mom, how long was I breastfed? She's like, about 5-6 months. Okay, well that explains why I had malocclusion, meaning my teeth were all jibber jabber, and I had to get oral surgery to bring my canines down because I had enough room. Then I had a bunch of braces, so that brought my narrow arch form more narrow, actually.
It's the beginning of it. And then what we love to do in America, well, British and American dentistry, is take out teeth because they look crowded.
Yeah.
I see the same thing. Don't take out teeth unless you absolutely have
There for a
to.
reason.
Ever.
It's supposed to be there.
Oh, I mean, the bone doesn't grow if you don't have teeth. And it's so easy to see these crowded kids' teeth. I mean, I've had it with my own kids. They bring them to these grandchildren to me and go, would you look at her tooth? Because they're all crooked and crossed out. And I'm like, yeah, but she's 6 or 7 or 8 or 9.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, you guys are big. Your heads are much bigger than these kids' heads, and they're going to grow. And wait. Don't take out teeth unnecessarily.
Please don't. Yeah, and it's interesting. And when I think about all the knowledge I have of now skulls and how they develop, was I taught this in dental school? Zippo zero nada.
Really?
We're talking nothing. Did they teach us about what skulls were like 30,000 years ago? No. Did they talk about how the skull forms with breastfeeding? No. If you understand how the head and the skull and the mouth and the teeth develop, and then you look at where we are today, and you look at our treatments for what we're doing to get the teeth in alignment, we made some side steps that are not necessarily the best. Like, when I got into the Airway thing, we have this oral device. It's it's actually the first treatment for sleep apnea that actually works. In the medical, CPAP is a treatment, but it doesn't actually. I can't say this. The word starts with the C and rhymes with "your."
Yeah.
Okay, I can't say that word, but it'll treat it and put it to remission for most people. It'll treat sleep apnea and put it to remission for most people, into mild to moderate. It's even FDA approved for the treatment of severe people to bring their numbers down. It's called an AHI to normal. Now, and they can maintain that. And once you're done with treatment, you're done. You don't need anything, right? So now the thing with that is, to get that FDA approved, it took years and years and years to do it. And they were denied over and over and over again. Not because it didn't work, because there are other powers, the AMA, American Medical Association, and the pharmaceutical industry, which was somehow telling the FDA, we don't want these guys out there. Can you just kind of make it extremely difficult for them to get to out there? And now that they're out there, you don't hear about it. Well, no one knows about this. When I'm helping people with their sleep apnea, and I'm basically creating treatments that put it into near full remission for life, why doesn't anyone know about this?
I know. We've got to talk more.
Right?
We'll come back and
so
talk
we'll
some
get
more
back
about
to
sleep apnea.
Yeah, sleep apnea, how it's an epidemic, and it easily could be prevented just by breastfeeding.
Yes, 100%. I'm so glad we began and ended with something that simple. But you got to tell your kids, and grandparents, I think, are going to be the leaders in the new revolution for community health. It's got to be grandparents teaching the kids who don't know yet how important it is for the grandkids.
I agree.
Yeah.